The crown princess's son, addicted to women, forcibly violated a palace maid. Unable to endure the humiliation, the maid chose to jump into a well. The crown princess's son continued living joyfully and carefree, unaware that the maid's revenge was already on its way. Yesterday, the water ghost told Ruri that the soul of Ungop had already been devoured by the 8-feet-tall ghost, and that this ghost was hiding inside the royal palace. Ruri began her ritual, attempting to locate the mysterious 8-feet-tall ghost. As she chanted the incantation, the young prince struggled violently and eventually spat out a mouthful of black blood. The moment he vomited the black blood, Ungop's spirit appeared. Hearing Ruri's call, the soul staggered out in confusion. Just as Ruri intended to approach him, the 8-feet-tall ghost swiftly captured Ungop again. At that moment, Gungjel appeared and covered Ruri's mouth and nose, stopping her from interfering. Seeing Ungop being taken away right in front of her, Ruri blamed Gungjel. But Gungjel warned her that Ungop had only escaped temporarily due to her prayer. He had long been a prey claimed by the 8-feet-tall ghost. Gungjel had already suspected that Ungop was devoured because he foolishly tried to help the king. Ruri also realized that the reason Gungjel had tried to stop her from entering the palace was because the 8-feet-tall ghost was inside. Gungjel admitted it and reminded her that Ungop had deceived and used her. Ungop didn't bring Ruri into the palace to treat the king's eyes. He intended to use her to lure the 8-feet-tall ghost out of the prince's body. For the sake of so-called righteousness, Ungop didn't hesitate to push Ruri into danger. Ruri refused to believe Gungjel, leading to a conflict between them. That night, Ungop's mother brought his clothes to Ruri. As she took them, she saw they were soaked with blood. She remembered how Ungop had smiled at her when they passed through the forest. In the bundle was a brocade pouch containing the longevity cord she had given him 13 years ago. Back then, before Ungop and his mother left their hometown, Ruri had given the cord to her childhood friend, wishing him health and safety. Ungop had promised to treasure it and to bring Ruri to Hanyang one day. Now, as she recalled those memories, tears fell uncontrollably. "What longevity cord? Completely useless," she murmured. Seeing her cry, Gungjel grew heavy-hearted. He had never wanted Ruri to learn about the 8-feet-tall ghost, not wanting to burden someone so pure. The next day, realizing Ruri was not home, he panicked and argued with Ungop's mother, afraid Ruri had gone alone to find the ghost. Ruri was at the medical bureau, where a palace servant handed her the king's glasses. The frame was loose, and she was asked to repair them quickly. Ruri happened to need these glasses, made from ghostbane stone. She had agreed with the water ghost the previous night. She would help the ghost get revenge, and in exchange, it would assist her. Following the water ghost's instructions, Ruri arrived at the training grounds and saw the crown princess's son, Prince Youngin, playing kickball. Realizing he was the one the water ghost sought revenge against, Ruri hid a jar in a corner and placed the water ghost's hair inside it. Soon, Youngin saw the palace maid who had killed herself appear before him as if alive. Shocked, he approached, only to watch her vanish mysteriously, leaving behind the strange jar in the corner. Curious, he examined it, only for the water ghost to pull him inside. The ghost roared, demanding to know why he had treated her that way. She revealed she had once been a palace maid who was violated by Youngin and in despair had jumped into the well. Now, she intended to drag Youngin with her in death. As Youngin struggled, Ruri appeared and smashed the jar with a stick, rescuing him. But in the mirror of the ritual, she also saw his future death. The water ghost thanked Ruri and told her to search the laundry room for a blue chest bordered with black silk containing the prince's clothing. Ruri warned the ghost not to harm Youngin again. If it continued to hurt people, it would become an evil spirit, unable to reincarnate. Inside the palace, Gungjel searched everywhere for Ruri. The palace maid at the medical bureau complained that Ruri kept sneaking out and said she would discipline that girl later. Hearing this, Gungjel erupted in fury and lifted the maid into the air. If she dared lay a finger on Ruri, Gungjel would destroy her entire bloodline. After finally finding Ruri, he immediately sensed the heavy aura of vengeful spirits on her and suspected she had been wandering near the 8-feet-tall ghost.
Ruri quickly denied it and even checked Gangjel's ankle, worried that jumping around might aggravate Ungop's old leg injury. Embarrassed, the powerful dragon spirit blushed. Gangjel quickly changed the subject and tried to drag Ruri home. Just then, a palace servant searching for Ungap appeared. He told her the king wished to see her at the Grand Hall. The king also summoned Chief Bing, already aware that Bing had been the one who ambushed Ungap in the forest. He needed Ungap to testify. Gangjel, distracted by the delicious food nearby, entered the hall rudely, chewing and looking around without restraint. When the king asked Ungap to recall the assassination attempt, Gangjel, despite remembering clearly that Bing was the attacker, lied and said he didn't remember. Disappointed but persistent, the king revealed Ungap's abdominal sword scar, noting that such a wound could not have come from ordinary bandits. He ordered Bing to find the truth. After Bing left, Gangjel shamelessly gorged on the palace feast. Wanting to confirm Ungap's true beliefs, the reform-minded king presented him with a proposal for abolishing slavery and asked for his thoughts. Gangjel burst into laughter, calling the idea ridiculous. To him, dividing people into classes was human nature. In 1,000 years, no one had overturned it. His response unsettled the king deeply. In the past, Ungap had cried after reading the same proposal. Being a disregarded, illegitimate son, he had long dreamed of a world where everyone was equal. Seeing such a drastic change in him, the king ordered strict surveillance. After Gangjel left, Ruri quietly went to the blue chest and retrieved the prince's clothing. Then she left the palace and went to the forest to perform a ritual. She intended to free Ungap's spirit completely and ask him the truth about why he brought her into the palace. In the forest, she hid ritual tools within the prince's clothing, tied a sealing rope around a boulder, attached one lens of the well-ghost stone glasses to it, and rang her bell to summon the 8-feet-tall ghost. Hearing the bell, the prince, possessed by the ghost, ran into the forest. Ruri lied to the ghost, saying she would offer her body to it in service. To save Ungap, she needed to lure the ghost out of the prince first. Delighted by Ruri, whom she saw as a vessel containing divine tools, the ghost danced and chanted with her. At the crucial moment, Ruri manipulated the sealing rope, but the ghost saw through her plan and approached her with terrifying, murderous energy. When she tried to reach for the lens, the ghost pinned her down. It lifted a stone to crush her, but Gangjel arrived just in time and hurled the ghost aside. Still howling, the ghost struggled as Gangjel restrained it. At that moment, the king's arrows flew toward them. Ruri urgently explained that for the prince's sake, the king must not break the boundary rope. He didn't believe her, so Gangjel grabbed the prince with a blade, forcing the king to order his guards to stay put. Seizing the moment, Ruri removed the well-ghost stone lens and held it before the prince while chanting. The ritual worked. The prince convulsed and vomited all the black blood from his body. The bloody marks on his face slowly faded. The 8-feet-tall ghost had finally left him. Unfortunately, the sealing rope caught fire and snapped, allowing the ghost to escape the ritual formation. At that moment, the king approached, eyes filled with murderous intent. Without the Ghostbane stone protection, it seemed the king had become the ghost's new vessel. The king charged at Gangjel with a sword. Gangjel fought back, but he could not withstand the ghost's overwhelming resentment. Under the ghost's deadly attacks, Gangjel revealed the black dragon scales on his body. A divine light flashed before him in the midst of the ritual, and at the moment the 8-feet-tall ghost prepared to strike again, Gangjel summoned lightning. The king collapsed unconscious, and the ghost was forced out of his body. Standing before them, the 8-feet-tall ghost, 8 feet tall and horrifying, continued its relentless assault on Gangjel. At the critical moment, Ruri drew the spiritual tool tied to her waist and stabbed the ghost, while Gangjel again summoned lightning. Under the combined power of spells and thunder, the ghost finally disappeared, temporarily. Having taken a sword strike from the king, Gangjel was badly injured. Ruri could not bear to see him suffer and decisively pulled the broken blade from his wound. Gangjel cried out in pain. Ruri lifted his outer robe and saw fresh blood spreading over the wound. She then took out the medicinal herbs she had originally gathered for Ungap and applied them to Gangjil's injury, carefully bandaging him. As Ruri leaned closer, Gangjil's heart began to pound uncontrollably. Her touch was unexpectedly gentle and warm. When their eyes met, he quickly looked away and changed the topic back to the 8-feet-tall ghost. Though injured, the ghost would certainly return. Gangjil urged Ruri to leave before it reappeared, but Ruri refused. She had to stay for Ungap. Ungap had been the first person in Ruri's life to comfort her, telling her the village disaster and her grandmother's death were not her fault. Those words helped Ruri survive years of pain. She would never run away dishonorably, nor would she abandon Ungap's wandering spirit. As they spoke, the king arrived furiously, pointing his sword at Gangjil. Earlier that day in the forest, he had clearly seen the dragon scales and realized Gangjil was not Ungap. Gangjil told him the truth, that Ungap had been killed by Chief Bing, but the king, still enraged, believed Gangjil had harmed the prince. Ruri defended Gangjil. At that moment, the boy prince arrived and explained that Ruri and Gangjil had saved him and expelled the evil spirit. Seeing his son fully recovered, the king finally relaxed and decided to spare them both. That night, Gangjil, feeling unwell, asked Ruri to find him a pond. Ruri complied and let Gangjil submerge his whole body in the water. As a red dragon and ruler of fresh water, he could restore his depleted spiritual energy, but facing the vicious 8-feet-tall ghost had drained him significantly. After soaking for a long time, his energy finally recovered. When he emerged, Ruri made a special decision. She was willing to give her body to Gangjil, fulfilling Gangjil's long-time wish to become Ruri's guardian spirit, her body lord, and to serve her. In return, she asked Gangjil to help her destroy the 8-feet-tall ghost and save Ungap, whose soul had been swallowed. To save Ungap, Ruri even kneeled before him. But Gangjil became furious, angry that Ruri would make such a sacrifice for someone as insignificant as Ungap. To persuade him, Ruri had no choice but to coax him. She bought Gangjil sweet pumpkin candy and promised that once Gangjil became her guardian spirit, she would buy him candy every day. But, like a spoiled child, Gangjil demanded sincerity and insisted that Ruri offer him a beautiful longevity cord. Ruri couldn't understand it. Gangjil had lived for more than 1,000 years. Why would he need something to prolong his life? But Gangjil stubbornly insisted. Ruri reluctantly agreed, grumbling as she wove the cord. The water ghost advised Ruri to stop wasting time and simply run away. Because Ruri had avenged her, the water ghost's appearance had gradually returned to normal. Still, she warned Ruri that the 8-feet-tall ghost's resentment is terrifying. Even she fears it. Ruri was troubled. She was afraid too, but she could not abandon Ungap. The next morning, while Ruri and Gangjil were bickering, a group of soldiers burst in and arrested them. The king had issued the order. His ministers reported that traces of ritual magic had been found in the forest.
The king was furious. He had already decreed that all shamans be expelled and had commanded the forest traces be destroyed. Yet the guards reported that Ruri seemed to have performed another ritual there. The king could not tolerate it. Shamanic rites were a national taboo. Ruri argued that the 8-feet-tall ghost would return and continue targeting the royal family, but the king didn't believe her and ordered both Ruri and Gangjil to be exiled from the capital. After leaving the city, Ruri warned the king's guards that the king must always carry the glasses made from well ghost stone for protection. She was also confused. Who else had performed a ritual in the forest? Secretly pleased with himself, Gangjil revealed that he had done it, hoping to force Ruri away from the capital and the 8-feet-tall ghost. Ruri refused to give up. She planned to travel to Nabul Mountain to find the monk Kasyapa. Her grandmother's shaman tools had been buried there, and the monk could help her. Seeing Ruri determined, Gangjil could only follow. But along the way, Ruri suddenly realized Gangjil had disappeared and a tiger stood before her, ready to pounce.
As Ruri fell in fright, Gangjial appeared and struck the tiger with lightning, driving it away. Later that night, as they warmed themselves by a fire, Ruri handed Gangjial the pumpkin candy she had prepared earlier and spoke of the time she had encountered lightning in the mountains. Gangjial confessed, those times it had been him protecting Ruri from wild beasts. Seeing how much Gangjial had done for her, Ruri's gaze softened. Gangjial glanced away, only to notice the candy on the ground had vanished. A sound echoed from the forest. He pursued and discovered an elderly man with graying beard stealing his candy. Gangjial took it back, only for a monk to suddenly strike him from behind with a staff. The monk instantly recognized that Gangjial was not human. Under the dark night sky, Gangjial fought with the monk. Their abilities were evenly matched, but Gangjial, distracted, scolding the old man for stealing his candy, was struck unconscious. Ruri arrived and recognized the monk as the very Kasyapa monk she sought. The old man was his master. The monk brought Gangjial to the temple. When he awoke, Ruri explained who he truly was. The monk, who had known Ruri's grandmother, revealed he had buried her shaman tools at the top of Nebul Mountain and agreed to accompany Ruri to retrieve them the next morning. Meanwhile, inside the royal palace, resentment and ghosts continued to linger. The crown princess visited the prince, feigning kindness, and found the boy fully recovered, the ghostly stench gone. She was not pleased. She was not his birth mother and wished for her own son, Prince Yangyin, to ascend the throne. To her, the prince was a grave threat. Since the 8-feet-tall ghost had failed to kill him, she consulted a blind Taoist priest. The priest promised to summon the 8-feet-tall ghost again to eliminate the prince. However, the crown princess wavered, unwilling to face the terrifying ghost again. She instead handed the priest Yang Yin's clothing and ordered him to chant scriptures to ward off spirits and protect her son. The priest agreed outwardly, but inwardly was unhappy, thinking she was being too soft. Carelessly, he ended up burning Yang Yin's clothing. When the crown princess visited Yang Yin, she found him curled up in bed, traumatized by the woman water ghost that had appeared the previous day. She scolded him for lacking ambition. Embarrassed and angry, Yang Yin rode to the home of the dead maid and beat her father mercilessly, calling him a worthless commoner who failed to teach his daughter properly. Seeing her father beaten, the water ghost was consumed with rage. That night, filled with hatred, she appeared before Yang Yin again to take revenge, but suddenly a swarm of centipede-like parasites surged toward him. As the writhing creatures closed in, the 8-feet-tall ghost manifested before Yang Yin. End of episode. All right, that's it for today. Don't forget to like, comment, share with friends, and subscribe to the channel. I will be back with the rest of the story soon.